The Galactic Federation goes into emergency meeting in response to humans developing faster than light travel. Listening in on human rhetoric and patterns of action, they learn that humans consider every endeavor in diplomacy to be a form of war. Having evolved upon a hostile planet where survival required unceasing preparedness, humanity quickly spreads throughout the galaxy, building a military presence marketed as protection services and labeling any contact with aliens as a potential threat. The Federation understand humans are not evil but rather top predators that see existence as warfare. With a species that believes peace is merely waging war in another setting, the Federation alters their first contact protocols to a stricter guideline of retreat and no contact with humans. The galaxy learns to hide and run while humanity spreads among the stars, doing that which they do best, survive. The Galactic Federation Council's emergency session had been convened at 0347 Standard Galactic Time, and the Crystalline Hegemony's ambassador Zixtera was the first to enter the Grand Chamber on Station Omega-7. Her form was as translucent as it was calmly shimmering in nervous light, reviewing the early reports that led to this unprecedented assembly. During her 3 centuries of diplomatic service, she had never witnessed anything quite like this. The room rapidly filled with delegates from the 47 species of the galaxy. The Aqueous Collective's delegation came in suits of environmental armor, twisting their tentacles angrily. From behind they sent 3 of their interlinked drones, their multifaceted eyes shimmering like emergency lights, and the confoundedly punctual mechanical orthodoxy. Even they couldn't get themselves in order, their shining chromium astrift with something I'd never before recognized to be ashamed, robotic anguish. At the center podium loomed Fleet Admiral Korthvat, the grizzled veteran who had administered first contact protocol for the past 2 centuries. His 6 arms waved as he switched on the holographic. The picture that appeared horrified the rest of the delegates. Pads, buddies, minds, spirit beings and all. Korthvat opened, affecting a tone more suited to the bringing of doom than giving information. We have a problem. Our deep space monitoring stations picked something up for the first time 3 normal days ago. A new form of life has mastered warp travel. The chamber was filled with chittering, humming, electronic bleeps, and the odd telepathic shriek. This was the kind of moment the Galactic Federation had prepared for millennia. I mean, all the first contact procedures had been fine-tuned, diplomatic means worked out, cultural exchange programs formed. It was supposed to be a party, but Korthvat's expression suggested otherwise. The species in question, he went on, hails from a tiny blue planet located in the outer spiral arm of a galaxy called the Milky Way, and they also call themselves human, and their planet Earth. Preliminary scans indicate they have reached spaceflight by means of what is best described as controlled explosions and barely contained nuclear reactions. Dr. Xenophia, the Federation's lead xenobiologist, drifted up in her containment sphere, her gaseous body pulsing with alarm. Admiral, you don't really think we should break Earth's first contact laws, do you? The handbook clearly states the handbook, Korthvat interjected, failed to consider this. He waves towards the holographic screen used to display current intercepted human transmissions. We have been tapping their phone lines for over 3 days. As a result of what we found here, all first contact protocols have been revised in an emergency session that had sprang to life, playing a sequence of what looked like human entertainment transmissions. The gathered party's eyes widened in horror as the screen played images of people doing things, humans wrestling apex predators for fun, or humans willingly jumping out of perfectly working aircraft, or humans even consuming what was practically poison to most other galactic species, or humans engaged in what could only be classed as recreational violence. This is their diversion, muttered Korthvat. This is their idea of fun. The crystalline body of Ambassador Zixtera turned the dark color of plums. Surely there's been some mistake. No sapient species would. It's more than that. Korthvat interrupted. The display changed, and there was some human military footage. They have fought documented wars over 14,000 in their history. They have weaponized everything from sharp sticks to antimatter. They have harnessed their own planet's resources to create weapons of mass destruction so powerful. They developed a theology of mutual assured destruction in which they threatened to wipe out their entire species rather than accept defeat. The hive mind consensus drones began clicking, a rapid-fire version of their nervous laughter, but at least one of them answered, their scouting operations must be peaceful, mustn't they? Upon achieving flight, humanity's immediate reaction was to search for hitherto unknown life and create diplomatic relations. Korthvat's expression grew even darker. I'll read it to you. the first human transmission we intercepted after they discovered faster-than-light travel. The president started an audio file, and the room was filled with the sound of a human voice, intertwining spoken words in what their translators had named English. Houston, Captain Marcus Reynolds of the UES Endeavour here. We have successfully activated the new quantum drive, which is accelerating us to around 8x the speed of light. We are now the first interstellar expedition for humanity, and I have to say, the view is absolutely unbelievable out here. We are presently coming very close to the Proxima Centauri system, and initial scans have revealed at least 3 possible, life-sustaining worlds. Is there anyone out there listening to us? This is humanity saying hello. We mean you no harm, but we've got enough armament on board to flatten a small moon. Reynolds out. The chamber went hushed, but for the low thrum of the station's life support systems. The consequences hung heavily in the recycled air. They announced their peaceful intentions. Zenith, the pacifist delegate of the Botanical Confederation, murmured, and then said they could destroy the whole planet. And that's not the worst of it. Korth spoke evilly. We've picked up more transmissions from other human ships. They're not just exploring, they're expanding. Said theory, of course, should have been correct, given that in the last 80-hour period alone they have commenced initial mining operations on 17 asteroids. Emplaced, this is their term, so I quote, terraforming equipment on, for planets, and commenced construction of their own transmissions use this phrase as well. Strategic defense platforms in the vicinity of their homeworld. Dr. Xenophir S. Gassia's body became a nauseating shade of green. Strategic defense platforms, they're militarizing space. By their communication they are assuming all such contact is alien and hostile. They have this thing called the Dark Forest Protocol where they treat all alien life as potential threats, so it must be wiped out before it wipes out humans. The announcement rocked the conference. The Galactic Federation had been constructed on the basis of coexistence, diplomacy, and exchange. It was something inconceivable that the whole species would see the galaxy as being hostile. But, of course, Ambassador Zixthera added, when they meet the peaceful nature of our approach, they understand their basis is not in fact valid. Korthvac activated another display. We beamed to their closest ship, a standard first encounter. Greeting 6 hours ago. A bit of math that leads to some PAL pictures of friendship and an offer to form an alliance. And their response? They veered their course to intercept where our transmission came from, and immediately put what they call a defensive countermeasure in place, and sent back a message that appeared to be, we see you, we're coming. Prepare for evaluation. This time the chamber exploded, filled with pure panic. The tentacles of the aqueous collective writhed madly, their suits splitting as they flailed. The mechanical orthodoxy's emissaries started putting out alarm codes at frequencies which, well, the biologic's teeth ached. Order, Korthvac shouted over the chaos. Order, we can't just continue hysterically. Gradually, they calmed down, leaving a strained silence. The real question then is, what do we do with first contact with a species that seems to be naturally aggressive, extremely proficient in adapting technology and assuming us as a threat on every level? Korthvac concluded. Dr. Xenophir floated forward. Maybe we can experiment with different strategies. What if instead of a routine diplomatic salutation we sent all these countries a lengthy detail of how we were peaceful and wanted cooperation now and in the future? And just to give you some history of the examples of our policy and behavior, which have promoted peace, can we remind you of our quilting bees and the Peace Corps, and how it impromptu wardrobe change after a flight to Iraq for a quick whip around? We tried that, Korthvac replied. Their response was to study our broadcast to identify any weaknesses, and return a detailed questionnaire, wanting to know what military capabilities we had, the size of our populations, and what resources we apportioned to what. What did you tell them? Nothing. We do not know if they would understand honesty as anything other than the pursuit of strategic data. For hours the session remained, delegates suggesting ever wilder solutions as they did. The empathic collective proposed generating waves of happy, loving feelings that they could direct right into human brains. Friends.forces.pro-basketball-overs.work probability calculators offered to sim all possible diplomatic outcomes. The time perception variance had suggested decelerating time in inhabited sectors with humans. To buy the Federation some extra time to prepare. Korthvac's answer to every suggestion was the same. We did that. It didn't work. There was a striking image that emerged about humanity by the end of the session that was both riveting and terrifying. They were a species that had evolved on a world where everything wanted to kill them. where survival had been a state of constant readiness and adaptation. They had invented technology through war, abstract reason philosophy through strife, and culture through strife. At the same time, they could be wildly creative and profoundly destructive. What I really fear, said Counselor Yathera, the Federation's lead psychiatrist, is not their combativeness, but how habituated they have become with force. It's been just 3 days since they achieved a meaningful level of interstellar travel, and already they are adapting their ships and tactics based on what they've been able to deduce while scanning our space. They are learning, they're adapting, and they're getting better at a pace that exceeds anything we've seen before. How fast are they improving? Asked Ambassador Xterra. At this rate, they'll catch up with the normal members of the Federation in 6 months. They could overtake us completely in 2 years. Again the room went silent, as the reality of that became clear to everyone. The Federation had developed its technology over 1,000 years through cooperation and peaceful research. Human had grown that advanced through discord and war, and they were advancing. And something more, Korthvac said softly. Our extended sensors have also picked up other human ships. They are not just getting bigger in one direction. They're getting bigger in every direction at once. They're expanding throughout the galaxy like a plague. How many vessels? At least 200 more. And they're introducing more every day. This sent a shudder through the body. Never before in the Federation's history had first contact been so slow. A race would develop interstellar travel, explore its immediate vicinity, and eventually meet Federation scouts. It was a process that normally unfolded over decades or centuries, and now humanity marched from next to the capability of interstellar flight to full and galactic expansion in less than a week. We cannot rule out the possibility, declared General Vekma of the Military Coordination Council, that humanity is not only a cancer but a cancer eating away at the very heart of the Federation itself. You want a military fight with them, is that it? Inquired Ambassador Xterra, her crystalline manifestation twitching with surprise. All I'm saying is, let's look at all the options. If they keep advancing like this, in a few months, they'll reach Federation planets. They may perceive our presence as hostile, so they'll shoot first and ask questions later. Dr. Xenophir pulsed with agitation. We can't make our first contact with a military confrontation. It would be the opposite of what the Federation stands for. And if we don't, maybe they make first contact with us like that, General. Vekma replied darkly. The argument raged on, but was suddenly broken by a sudden analysis from the Federation's long-range scanner network. The junior technician's voice came through the chamber's communications system. Admiral Korthvac, we have a time-sensitive report regarding the humans. Go ahead and, sir, the human home system just lit up like a Christmas tree. They are, it seems, building something big. Very large. How large? It's about the size of their largest moon or so, sir, and it's armed. There was chaos again in the chamber. The concept of weaponizing a moon was so beyond anything the Federation had ever contemplated. Most of the delegates were simply incapable of internalizing it. And to make matters worse, the tech went on, we've intercepted human calm traffic. They're calling this construction project Aegis, and that it is supposed to be, and I quote, a mobile defensive platform for the protection of human interests. In the galaxy, a fucking mobile moon-sized weapons platform, Korthvac repeated, slowly. They're constructing a mobile weapons platform the size of a moon. Yes, sir. And they appear, according to our analysis, to be doing it at a record rate. Some sort of machine system, that is. The implications were staggering. Humans weren't just growing rapidly across the galaxy, they were putting in the work to support and secure that growth. They weren't just sightseeing, they were taking possession. Admiral, another voice over the comm system. Members of the diplomatic corps, we have something new. The human body form that was reacting to our original broadcast message has arrived at the broadcast location, and they have created what they call a forward operating base, and are insisting that we go to them for what they describe as peaceful negotiations under armed escort. The room was quiet, save for the telltale stress responses of whatever species was under that lid. The aqueous collective was sounding like boiling water. The hive mind consensus was clicking in ways indicative of severe agitation. There were error codes coming from the mechanical orthodoxy. Let me get this straight, Ambassador Xterra said deliberately. They wish to carry on peaceful negotiations gun in hand. It's regular human diplomatic protocol. According to the way they transmitted it, they think all talks can go hostile, so keep military in Reading. And if we refuse, they made it clear they would perceive that as a hostile act. A hostile act is how they would interpret that, and they would respond accordingly. The founders had discovered many races during its eons of existence. They had encountered hostile species, paranoid species, territorial, and xenophobe species. But they had never met a species that conducted diplomacy as if it were a type of war. "I'm starting to see," said Councillor Yithara in a reflective tone, "why the humans have done so well. They do not separate diplomacy from war. To them, diplomacy is war by other means. Talking war, EU, no thank you," Dr. Xenophia muttered. "Also a clever one," General Vecma conceded. "If you operate on the premise that any diplomatic engagement at any level can turn into a military engagement at any level, you're never unprepared either. Delegates are staying late into the night and growing more and more desperate for a solution. All the standard methods for making first contact felt useless in the face of a species which made peace into a kind of war." It was the old keeper of Federation historical records, Archivist Kalanara, who finally spoke. She did not speak at all that session, but spoke now, in her ancient voice, across the chamber. "During my time studying the history of the galaxy, I have watched countless species rise and fall. I have, however, seen nothing like this. The humans are not a mere other species. They are something brand new. They are what come when evolution selects for a species that treats the mere fact of being as a kind of warfare." "What are you suggesting?" asked Admiral Korth, _VAK.IM, saying that we don't face a diplomatic issue at all. It is a world turned upside down. The galaxy's never going to be the same. Another foreboding line concluding the trailer reads, half of which will hang like a death sentence. The Federation was supposed to the guiding light of galactic civilization, a beacon of peace and cooperation lesser races hoped one day to become a part of. What was nearly impossible to believe was the fact that this role might be coming to an end. "What shall we do?" asked Ambassador Zixtera. Archivist Kalanara was silent for a long time. She dropped her voice to a whisper. "Run." The word rattled the chamber. It was ludicrous for the most advanced race in the galaxy, the Galactic Federation, to run from a species that had relatively just a week ago achieved interstellar travel. Almost. "You're suggesting we evacuate?" asked General Vecma. "I am suggesting we try to live," Kalanara countered. "I have been crunching the human numbers. The last few hours, you know what I've learned." The chamber waited. "They're not expanding randomly. They're following a specific pattern. They are mapping the most strategically advantageous systems and defensible positions. They're not just exploring, they're planning. And all of that is for a war that they're likely to believe is inevitable. A war with whom? With everyone, with anyone, with whatever they encounter. They've codified a species-level philosophy that assumes the universe is at war, and that survival depends on continuous vigilance and total strength. The implications were staggering. Humanity was more than just another species to join the galactic community. They were a species that believed the galactic community was fundamentally hostile and needed to be conquered or destroyed. "But surely," Dr. Xenophia began, then, with a desperate edge to her voice, "certainly once they know we're not warlike, they'll change tactics." "Will they?" Kalanara asked. "What becomes of a species that makes its worldview predicated on constant fear? What will they do when they find real peace?" The query simply floated, unanswered. "This is what happens," Kalanara went on. "They assume it's a trap. They believe that peace is a kind of war. They haven't learned the rules. 4. They believe that anyone who offers peace is either a rube or a fraud." Admiral Korthvak's shoulders slumped. "So what do we do?" "We change the first contact protocol," Kalanara said in full seriousness. "We take an entire manual and replace it with one sentence. Evacuate immediately. Do not engage. Pray they don't notice you." There was a horrified silence from the suggestion. This notion that the Galactic Federation is running from one race was preposterous. "You're saying we should ditch thousands of years of diplomatic tradition?" asked Ambassador Zixtara. "I propose we live for another 1,000 years, Kalana answered. "Once in a while evolution throws a species up that is so effective that it changes the environment for everybody else for good. The humans are the top of the food chain across the galaxy. They've evolved to provide no middle ground. Everything is either a resource to be extracted, nothing more than fodder, or a threat to be exterminated. What about our colonies? Our trade routes, our entire civilization? What about our lives?" Kalanara countered. "We can rebuild colonies. We can develop new routes of trade. We can create new civilizations. We cannot resurrect extinct species." Hours were spent in controversy, but an urgent dispatch interrupted the discussion. This one was from Captain Vextera, the Federation's oldest Holopoint scout. Admiral, we have a situation. Multiple situations. Actually report, Captain, we've found human ships in 47 systems. They're not just venturing forth anymore, they're colonizing. They're creating permanent settlements, and they're creating them at a pace that contradicts all our models. How is that possible? They are deploying some sort of a machine-based construction system. They come into a system, release their fabrication drones, and in a few hours the primitives have a complete functioning colony. It's unlike anything we have ever witnessed. The chamber was dead quiet as the full impact set in. God in heaven, humanity wasn't only growing, they were spreading like a plague through the galaxy at the speed of light. There's more, Captain Vexara continued. We've been listening to them, and they're not just colonizing, they are creating what they call strategic networks. Each of the colonies can interlock with any other of the colonies. They're not just expanding, they're building an empire. An empire? Admiral Korthvac echoed the word slowly. Yes, sir. And the way we're interpreting it, they'll hold more than 30% of the galaxy's habitable systems in 6 months. At current rates, the number was staggering. It had taken the Federation millennia to acquire the sovereignty of a mere 15% of the galaxy's systems, through peaceable means, and by mutual consent. Through simple expansion, humanity was making twice that in the mind-bogglingly shorter period of time. Admiral, said another voice over the comm system, we have an important message from Perimeter Defense Network. There are 3 human ships on their way through Federation space, toward the Kepler 442 system. That's a member world of the Federation. Ambassador Zixthera choked. More than 2 billion AC citizens actually make their home there. Yes, ma'am. And the apes in human bodies want to set up this thing they call a diplomatic outpost in the system. What kind of diplomatic outpost? Their transmission was not verified. We OP on IZOD. How long they've in a Thermand warship. Again the chamber exploded into chaos. Bringing arms to bear against a fellow system of the Federation was not just playing favorites. It was a literal breaking of every treaty and understanding the Federation had ever put pen to paper to formalize. How did Aqueous Collective respond? Asked Admiral Korths V.A.K. They acquiesced to humans' demand. The chamber fell silent. They agreed. Yes, sir. Reportedly, the humans' diplomats had provided them maps showing the exact locations of the system's strategic weak points, and promised them protection services in return for setting up the outpost. Protection services. The humans told us the system could be attacked by unknown hostile forces and that their presence would protect the civilians in the system. Ambassador Zixara turned deep red in her crystalline form. They persuaded the Aqueous Collective that they were in need, that they faced threats that weren't even there, and now they have a military presence within the Federation. Dachmar scowled. And it gets worse, Captain Vexthera concluded. The humans are extending the same offer to other Federation races. They're pretending to be protectors, and offering security partnerships to anyone willing to host their military presence. And how many species have committed to that? 17 so far, and the number is growing. The implications were devastating. Humanity was conducting diplomacy by other means, pleading with responsible people in the Federation to voluntarily base human military forces they had been taking over the galaxy through protection rackets. We have to alert the other member species, insisted Dr. Zenufia. We tried, Admiral Korthvac replied. Those species that have already been brought into agreement with the human protection are defending their choice. They say that the humans have spotted real security threats and are bringing valuable services. What threats? The galaxy is full of species that are hostile to everything we stand for. At an existential level, we hear from the humans. They have compiled comprehensive intelligence briefings on all these threats, with a plan to remove them. Intelligence reports about what threats about us. The word landed in the chamber like a punch. Humanity had poisoned the well, persuaded Federation members against the Federation itself. They say we're a hostile hegemony and control the member species by manipulating their economies and enforcing our will through political pressure. Admiral Korthvac continued. They're presenting themselves as liberators, but that's not true at all, objected Ambassador Zixthera. Is it? Asked Archivist Kalanara quietly. What does the Federation look like from their point of view? Bridging the gap between regions. It commands the galaxy's trade routes, controls diplomatic relations, and maintains a space fleet in every major star systems. To a race that incorporates suspicion, we must seem like the exact type of menace that they were created to prevent. It felt like a knife to the heart. Humanity wasn't just taking over the galaxy, but it was doing so by relying on turning the Federation's own structure against itself. So what do we do? Asked General Vecma. We adapt. said Archivist Kalanara. We learn from them, we change our approach. How we stop trying to win and we start trying to survive. The session stretched on into the middle of the night, as delegates came up with ever more desperate proposals. Some suggested preemptive military action. Others proposed immediate diplomatic overtures. A handful even argued for complete surrender and to pray for mercy, but it was Admiral Korthvac who put the exclamation point on the session. I've been dwelling on Archivist Kalanara's words, he declared, regarding revision of the First Contact Protocol, and I think she's right. The chamber fell silent. If you will do me the honor, ladies, gentlemen, and other consciousness clusters, I suggest we need a complete rewrite of the First Contact Protocol. All Federation ships and installations to receive new version within 24 hours. What will it say? Asked Ambassador Zixthera. The holograph display was active one last time, and Admiral Korthvac was speaking. The new protocol was concise and easy to read. First Contact Protocol Revis et Species Humans Homo sapiens Origin. Sol 2-3 Earth Threat Level. Existentially and Enter procedures. Evacuate immediately. Do not engage, do not attempt communication. Try to talk to them, do not treat them peacefully, never just assume they're an enemy, do not assume anything, report encounters to Federation Command, keep at 10 light years or greater. Pray they don't notice. UADDITONL notes. For humans, everything is a chance for conflict. They define peace as tactical lie. They see diplomacy as war by other means. War through talking. They take no chances with alien contact. They have turned their own moon into a weapon. They grow at the rates higher than all known models. Existence itself is treated by them as a combat duty. They are not amenable to reason because they believe that reason is a weapon they cannot be compromised with, because they regard compromise as war. They are not intelligible, because they presume intelligibility is a weakness. Survival recommendations: avoid all human-occupied systems, place observational stations at the greatest safe distance, get ready for all Federation properties to be relocated swiftly. I offer this protocol as an interim solution until humanity either annihilates itself or wipes everything outright. A new will and plan for the spiritual Hasanat rewards. Remember, they're not evil, they're not malicious, they're just really, really good at what they do, and what they do is survive. End protocol. The chamber was hushed as the delegates absorbed the new protocol's implications. The Galactic Federation, the galaxy's most advanced civilization, had just publicly announced that humanity was too dangerous to interact with. This protocol will be sent to all Federation ships, installations, and members in the next 24 hours, Admiral Korthvac declared. It will be a public service, accessible to all non-Federation species as well. You're making it public? Asked Dr. Xenophir. Where? Because it is survival manual, answered Admiral Korthvac. Because everyone in the galaxy is going to need it. As the meeting concluded and the members of the delegation started going their separate ways, everyone on it was thinking the same thing. The galaxy had just shifted forever. Mankind stepped into the galactic arena, and nothing was ever the same again. In the weeks that followed, the new First Contact Protocol could not spread fast enough through the galaxy. It was reproduced, translated, and transmitted to every species, to every government and every independent organization. It was the most universally accepted instrument in the annals of the galaxy. It also served as the galaxy's hottest-selling survival guide. Civilizations who had never even heard about the Galactic Federation were buying copies of the protocol. Independent traders began to carry it as a standard tool of the trade. Even military organizations adopted it in their training manuals. Some learnt the language and passed it on as a survival skill to their offspring. That it was translated into over 3,000 languages. It was rewritten with alternate sensory emphasis, repackaged so a hive mind could understand it, or harnessed so a quantum consciousness matrix could comprehend it. It was on the subspace radio, through quantum entanglement networks, even on the surface of asteroids, in case all electronic technology were to fail. But perhaps most tellingly, it was never even updated. Because in months after, they would see that every single tidbit about humanity had been confirming everything the protocol had warned. They expanded, they adapted, they conquered, they survived, and the galaxy learned to walk. There was only one other record in Admiral Korthvac's personal log, which had been made 6 months after the emergency session, and it read, "They're not coming to invade us, they aren't bringing the house down on us, and they're not even coming to meet us. They're coming to do what they haven't yet done, survive. And also, unfortunately for the rest of us, they're remarkably good." at it that people are coming, and the only thing to do is make way. For ultimately, that's what the galaxy has become, their way. The log entry was not sent over the line. Admiral Korthvac had come to know, as did virtually everyone else, that the only safe way to approach humanity was in silence. Because the humans were listening, they were always listening, and they were always coming, and so the galaxy learned to whisper and to hide and to run, because the only survival imperative made clear when humans arrived was this: don't let them realize you exist. The cosmos, he discovered, was a very perilous place, and nothing in it was more dangerous than a type that had learned to call that danger its home.